Bradford Ferguson has challenged my price target for the end of this month. He says he thinks we're nearing a top, and of course, I think we're going up substantially more. So I'll let you go first, Brad. What in the world are you talking about? We're nearing a top.
Well, let me ask you a question first. So
Sure.
you're saying what price by May 31st?
All-time high, but everybody's giving me some leeway on that. They said they'll give me 2 weeks leeway. So June 15th is my new date, but that's the timing between May 30th and June 15th.
So you're saying 490 or higher,
Right.
something like that. Okay. Yeah, I think sentiment is we're close to peaking out in the level of optimism in Tesla. I see it in people attending spaces on X. People are excited about what the stock's doing. Of course, we're all excited about seeing the Optimus videos and um, excitedly waiting for the RoboTaxi launch in Austin. And I'm just seeing a shift on how people are talking about their Tesla, their investment in Tesla, maybe some leaps that they bought, or maybe they bought the dip. Yeah, we bought a we bought the dip. We didn't buy it as at the low or anything, but we did that, and not financial advice. And
Right.
so yeah, it's the way people are talking about it, and the market as a whole has shifted to greed on the CNN Fear and Greed Index,
Yeah.
whereas a little over a month ago we were in extreme fear. So we're not quite in extreme greed,
Right. Right.
but I think we're close. We're nearing that point, and I'll say it's a fear of mine that we have a bit of a replay of the lead up into the We Robot event,
Mhm.
where it ran up 2 weeks before, and then the week before We Robot, it actually sold off, and then it sold off again after the event. So I think we're nearing potentially a little bit of a blow off going into the whole June 1st RoboTaxi thing.
Okay. All right. So let me uh take what you said and see if I can dig a little deeper into your thinking. First of all, it's a very normal, that's my approach to contrarian. If you've had a big run up, it's commonly time to see a bit of a rundown afterwards.
Mhm.
Maybe people overshooting the mark in terms of what the value of the event is, etc. Okay, so I understand that, get that. I understand also the market today. It's also had a big run up. We've gone up actually 20% from the low.
Mhm.
And so that wouldn't be a surprising place to maybe see a retracement of 5 or 10% before going
Yeah.
higher. And
And
also,
I'll add that I said this last night before we knew what the stock was going to do today,
yeah,
that we were nearing a run up. So I'm not surprised, some steam has let off, but my guess is that we have a strong week next week.
a strong week next week before it starts down. Okay.
Hmm.
All right. So then
And it's
the
overly specific, so I'm highly likely to be wrong.
I know, but so am I. Okay, so but it's fun. All right, so what do you think? The first part of the run up on Tesla stock, I think, was 100% following the macro. That's just me, but it was pretty much every day. It was doing double roughly the Nasdaq. But then on Monday or Friday or Monday, it shot. I think it was Monday, right? Or Tuesday, it shot up like 4% in
Mhm.
15 minutes. It was this week. Yeah, it was because Trump was over with the Emirates when that
Mhm.
happened. So what did you think? What do you think's going on this week that seems to be a little bit not necessarily following the market, but that's more related to Tesla specific? What was going through your mind as
Yeah.
this?
So we got some good videos about Optimus. I think the first one may have been ignored a little bit, but the second one where we're showing different dance moves over 42 seconds, that's very impressive. And to see the ability for Tesla to train it in simulation and then bring that to the real world and have it work for them without them having to make adjustments to it is very impressive. So that's called simulation to real. And then it's also called zero shotting, where you're not having to make an adjustment once you bring it to the real world. And I think ultimately this is what has Elon really excited to get more compute. He's
Mhm.
talking about wanting to 1000x or more the level of compute that Tesla has,
Yes.
or
No,
XAI has, or Musk Industries has.
which is already
Um,
the number one, which is already
yeah,
beyond everybody. Yes.
that it is. I don't know if they're bigger than Microsoft, but as far as like the largest
Right.
single clusters, it is large. They are the largest in the world, and I think Sim to Real has him excited to do this because you can train all these different things. You could even have the robot doing fast pick and place operations in a factory and doing that in a simulation. And then you can bring that to real and then, see how it works.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can have it do it on 1,000 different clusters and then somehow merge it. So Elon wants a giant cluster where you can train a skill, add it to the model, and do that sequentially over and over again. I think that's what has Elon excited, but I think overall, people were very excited by Optimus.
Okay. So you think that was a piece, that was maybe the whole thing, or
Yeah.
at least
But
a,
there was also a day where no news. There was no news and the stock went up. Maybe that was Tuesday or something like that.
yeah. So I had this theory, I'll throw it by you, that part of the reason it went up that day was because of Elon being on the stage and
Mhm.
they're in the Middle East talking about AI, talking about what Tesla's doing with AI, et cetera. And I came up
In
with
front of the world's richest people.
in front of the world's richest people by a lot, with
Uh-huh.
and that are already huge investors in Tesla and his other companies, and or at least some of them. And so I came up with a new ticker symbol, and that is $ Elon.
Hmm.
So of course there's no actual stock called that, but I have this sense that a lot of these wealthy guys that were there at that meeting watching what was going on might have thought to themselves once again, and they may have had this thought for a long time, I need to have at least a piece of this guy. I need
Right.
I need to have an investment in him because he never actually completely fails. I mean, he might
Mhm.
decide not to go forward with the product, but he doesn't really ever fail. And so I was thinking maybe that was a piece of what was going on Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday where we saw that run up. It might have been Monday. Anyway, but what do you think of that theory?
It's plausible. These folks could have thrown like 10 million or so in Tesla. That would just be a little starter position to just kind of watch it and see how it does in their portfolio. Wouldn't even be like 1% of their wealth.
Right, right.
Yeah, that could have happened for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So that was
But I am hearing rumblings of bulls, um, switching into more leverage, whether it's using margin or that they added more leaps and that they're continuing to do so, or trimming their stock to add leaps, things like that. I'm hearing that more and more.
okay. All right. And so we got the Optimus potential. We've got the what do you want to call it? The Elon potential.
Mhm.
We've got there's a there's a potential Dojo component. So we've got that ramping up. We've got,
Mhm.
even though the only place you're ever going to see it probably it talked about in detail is Brian Wong. Brian's been talking about the potential for
Yeah.
Dojo in spades. Like
Yeah, he's been geeking out on Dojo.
he says he thinks Dojo could eventually produce more compute per year than NVIDIA, actually by
Mhm.
2028. And another expert, I can't remember who it was. Was that Larry? Somebody I talked to said that's makes sense, made sense to them that 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 Tesla could eventually be making more chips than NVIDIA, maybe even as early as 2028. So that's another component that maybe people would be starting to say, wait a minute, we got this whole other business here that could be massively profitable and massively useful in terms of their future.
Yeah, I'm a little skeptical. I do own NVIDIA's as well.
Mhm.
I'm a little skeptical if Dojo would be better than what NVIDIA has. So I'd like to hear Brian's thoughts on that. But even if it's worse, Elon is seeing the value of having a ton of compute.
Yeah, yeah,
So I wouldn't blame him if even if Dojo was inferior to NVIDIA, like he can only get so many of the NVIDIA chips every year.
yeah.
Um, so if he wants more compute, then he's got to make his own with Dojo.
All right. So let's say that we
And
agree.
then there's this other piece where people want to front run the whole RoboTaxi. They think maybe some perceptions will change about Tesla once that happens.
Right. Oh yeah, 100% on that, of course. So 100%, I've up till now been really concentrating on front running Dojo of a complete I mean of front running, I'm sorry, a robotaxi of
Hmm.
the I don't want F FOMO, the FOMO around robotaxi.
Right.
Now, a piece of that is this. I believe, I think you probably believe, Elon believes, Kathy Wood believes, and many others believe that this will be the single most important product ever introduced in the history of the world. Not in 100 years, not in 1,000 years. No, in the history of the world, there's never been a product with a higher revenue and profit potential than the robotaxi, and that Elon believes it's a 90% share. Kathy Wood believes it's 50% share for Tesla.
Hmm.
That it's in the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars, far bigger than in NVIDIA, Apple, et cetera. So to the extent that a person believes that, that's one of those sell your house moments. That's one of those borrow against your 401k moments. So
Hmm.
as we get closer and closer, the FOMO theoretically would go crazy. It wouldn't be topping out.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. Yeah.
Okay. So that's part of my
But I think there's limits to um, what people will do. And I think people are, when the stock price is moving in their favor, they're more likely to add and to do that. But if for some reason it went down a couple days in a row or maybe three, then people might get a little scared and hold back a bit.
Yeah, yeah,
I think there's limits to how many people do margin or leaps or whatever, sell their house and eat ramen noodles and vitamins.
in order to get a few more dollars worth. All right,
Hmm.
so now, okay, so we've talked about those variations. So my theory, and we've already run up a bunch of my theory because I've had this theory for my price target's been in place for a couple of months.
Hmm.
So the when we were sitting at about 250, I said, okay, or 260, I said, okay, here's my theory. It's 100 points of macro and 100 points of FOMO. So I think we've gotten a bunch of those points of macro. A lot of this move so far has been the macro. So we haven't got the FOMO yet, and there's more macro. So my idea right now would be we've got 5% more, roughly 5% more to go on the S&P.
Hmm.
And Tesla is their multiple of the S&P is usually about three, right? It's about
Uh,
beta is about three to the S&P.
Two. Technically, it's two, but
I
yeah,
thought it was two.
it seems to be it seems to be higher recently. Yeah.
Because the Nasdaq is usually 2 to the Nasdaq and sometimes even higher. So and the Nasdaq, of course, is more than the S&P. I'm talking about percentages.
Oh, to the S&P, you're right.
Right, right. So let's say 3 to the S&P. So if the S&P has 5% to go, then as if the S&P gets to all-time high by June, and the reason I believe that is because of the amazing optimism around what Trump is doing.
Mhm.
You have the highest level of folks saying that the country's headed in the right direction ever since they started since they started asking that question. So
So
we're
right direction versus wrong
right
direction is the
direction versus
highest.
wrong direction, highest by far.
Wow.
It's not even close. So there's
Wow.
massive enthusiasm, a massive optimism out there. And I think that that is going to mean that they continue to spend. That's going to mean that we're going to continue to see better than expected results in a lot of the analysis. And then we had the better than expected results on inflation again. So the only thing that's left is the bonds, and they're driving me nuts.
Mhm.
It's like, what's wrong with these bonds? Um, so, so if we get 15% bump from here, 15% of where we at 340 today. So 15% of 340 is say 50, 60 more points from the
Mhm.
macro. Then we're at 400. We only need the other 80 points from the FOMO. So that's how I get there.
Mhm.
You think I'm completely nuts or only sorta?
I think it could happen.
Okay, all right, okay. And then what? And
We
then
we saw something in the technicals that uh enabled us to trim for some folks around like 340, 350 a share, and then we ended up adding back around 270 a share,
mhm, mhm.
between 240 and 270 a share. Um, and so like there's this pretty wild potential in the chart that it could reclaim the old highs in short order. So I think it's possible it'll be wild if it happens, but it wouldn't surprise me because of how crazy Tesla stock can be.
It is Tesla. Yeah.
Yeah.
After
And we are approaching a a really important time. Like um RoboTaxi is real. It's coming.
yeah, yeah. And of course, then it becomes, to me, then it becomes a case of what does it do in those first few weeks? I think
Yeah, I don't think we're suddenly going to get daily updates from Tesla.
but will we
So,
get daily updates from the press that will be there covering it or something like that?
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, yeah. So I also think that the Tesla's going to have to give us some updates between now and then. They're going to have to give us some idea of what the opening day looks like, or what the opening week looks like, or what the specific day is that it will start, and whether the president will be there for the opening.
That's interesting. They could also quietly roll it out to employees
Right.
at first,
Yes.
and maybe we don't even hear about it.
Right. So many
That's a
times.
risk.
So anyway, sounds like a lot of fun to me. All right. So then you also had some thoughts. I did not get to see the video yet on the walk through the Lathrop plant.
hmm
And this, of course, is you know, you wish you were there doing that walkthrough and take
Yeah,
the video yourself.
absolutely.
Yeah. But so what did you learn on the walkthrough?
Yes. So I was not on the walkthrough. This was with Tesla owners of Silicon Valley. And let me get this pulled up so people can find it. Okay. Here it is. So a 26-minute video. I'm guessing it's on their YouTube as well.
Sure.
First ever recorded walkthrough of the Tesla Megapack factory in Lathrop. I thought it was really cool to see the space. You get to see the different, um, and I'll just like show a tiny bit of it. You get to see the different stations. The tour guide was really good. Um, they had this body in white portion where they make the enclosure and then they clean that. They have this huge machine to move the roof of the container on top of it. Uh, then they talk about some of the assembly. We learn about why they're painted white, how heavy they are, but I kind of spoiled that. So she said they're 84,000 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had I had been giving out a 82,000 pound number, which is what Drew Baglino said. I talk about the safety with it. So these are roof vents.
Mm,
So if you have a thermal event, it can
mm,
the roof hatch will open up. And then they show inside these bus bars, how they connect them electrically. They talk a bit about the plumbing to keep them cool. So I thought it was really cool because, well, one, I'm a big fan of the mega packs. I may not be the biggest fan, but I'm up there.
yeah. Yeah.
And it was cool to see inside the factory and get a sense of the space and the workstations there.
Did they give you any news at all? Did they indicate anything about production or future production or
Yeah, so they said they had doubled their production to 10,000 per year.
okay. Which is
So what they said was 200 per week.
okay.
And that would be the 40 gigawatt hour number. So sad face a little bit. I'm not sure if they're limited to 40 at this factory, how the equipment's laid out. I'm not really sure what the limiter is. When they stopped by certain stations, it seemed like this a lot of the stations were stopped. So I don't know if they were waiting for body on white or body in white or the cleaning or if they were waiting on batteries. I don't know, but um, so I'm not really sure what the bottleneck is right now. I'm losing a little hope that they might like suddenly have a capacity of 80 gigawatt hours at Lathrop.
At that specific building, at least.
Mhm.
Right. Could put another building in right next door or down the street, but in terms of
Yeah.
that building with that current layout, it might be
Mhm.
maxed out. Okay. Might,
Yeah.
but we still don't actually know.
And maybe one thing that could give us a little hope is they did give this tour, so why are they giving the tour? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe they want more employees at Tesla Lathrop to maybe add another building or something like that.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's really cool that they put that out. That along with Optimus. So turning back to Elon for a minute, it seems, everybody's like, come on, Elon, you got to get back to work.
Mhm.
And I'm sitting there going, what are you talking about? He's been doing all these shows. He's been doing all this stuff. He's been visibly out there. He's been talking about Tesla, on these shows. So he is working.
Mhm.
However, since he's been back, it's been a lot of more consumer, if you want to call us consumer, uh, uh, stockholder and enthusiast facing content, don't you think?
Mhm. Yeah, I would say so. He's been sharing out more things from Tesla. So it hasn't been like 300 political posts a day. It's might be like 200. I think it's a lot less. And uh, it seems like he's sharing a half a dozen things related to Tesla on a daily basis. Today he shared that the Optimus wanders around the Tesla AI building every day and they charge themselves, and they're essentially like unmanaged. Um, so that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course, as I have said many, many times, and I think somebody else said it the other day on another, it might have even been on Figure, not on Optimus. I'd like to see a bunch of Optimi welding, turning screws, holding power equipment, and actually
Yeah.
utilizing it, changing wheels. I don't know, something, actual work that is
Mhm.
valuable, not just pick and place which is, it might be valuable to do pick and place, but it's basically I'm not sure that's what everybody's excited about. I think people want to see more. Now, the dancing was very good,
Mhm.
but I'm not sure how much money they're going to make as a dance troupe.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's got better feet than me, I can tell you that.
Okay, so what else do we got on the list? That we had a couple of other.
Yeah, so RoboTaxi had
Oh,
some thoughts about
go for
RoboTaxi.
it. Go for it.
And yeah, I would like some comments on this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna join with my iPad. I'm gonna draw on the screen.
You're going to draw on the screen.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
going to
gonna
learn a new. Oh, another one of your skills.
I'm gonna draw on the screen. So you'll need to approve me.
Oh, I thought I did. Oh, the other one. Yeah, the other one. Okay, okay, got it. And we have to no,
Gotta
it
mute.
should already be shared.
I gotta leave the audio. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Now, what have you done?
So this will take a moment.
All right. Well, listen. I could do a little song and dance since we got
Let's do that.
Optimus. Is
Aloha, oi.
yeah. Hello. That's right. Yeah, you guys. I do feel sorry for everybody that's not here with me today, but don't suggest coming down and joining. Um, we like our little grass shack to ourselves here in Kauai. Here we go.
All right.
Yeah,
So we're sharing my screen. This will be nice and big.
yeah.
I'm just going to expand this on my computer.
So many of me. So
So
many.
I'm just thinking about what Tesla can charge. So they can charge $2 a mile
Okay. Yeah.
for the service.
Yeah.
And this is billable miles.
Right.
And we know they could charge this because Uber charges more.
Right.
Uber charges more. That's key. But a third of your miles are wasted.
Right.
So this goes to a buck 33.
Oh, you're doing it that way. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing it this way.
Okay. Net charge per mile per day. Okay.
Yeah, per mile. And we're going to be a little high on these assumptions.
Okay.
I know it'd be less expensive, but um, let's assume that a Model Y typically costs 50 cents per mile for wear and tear, insurance, electricity, all that.
Wow, that is high.
Yeah, we're going a little high. And so insurance is included in that.
Okay.
So that's basically all you subtract. So charging is included in that. So
Okay. Charging.
if you
Okay.
hire people to plug in for
All
the
right.
charging,
Charging,
then
cleaning. So basically, you're saying all in, it costs 50 cents, which is
yeah.
about double Kathy Wood's number. So
Yeah, we're on the high side, so we're
right,
being conservative about
right,
the potential profits. So Tesla's going to get 83 cents per mile
right.
that the car drives, and the car's going to drive about 300 miles per day
Okay.
um, to do 200 customer miles.
Right.
So we got 300, and this is about $249 per day.
Right.
All right, so let's whip out the calculator here.
Okay.
I think it's going to be about 90 grand per year. So 365 times 249 is 90,885
You could round down.
per year.
Uh-huh.
Profit.
Yeah.
This is not revenue, this is
No,
profit.
profit. Yeah.
Profit. And it's estimated now Tesla won't suddenly run a million of their own cars, but it's estimated that you can before you need to lower the price, nationwide, if you can do all cities, you can do 1 million RoboTaxis,
Mhm,
roughly.
mhm, mhm.
So if you do all that, numbers get a little crazy.
Yeah,
So
just add just add
that's
some zeros,
basically 91 billion per year
which
in
is just
profit,
which is just a little bit less than Apple.
a little bit less than Apple.
Right.
So Tesla won't be done growing at this point.
No.
So this is not financial advice. So let's just say you give a 30 times multiple on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2.7 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
And we're probably on the low side.
Right.
Um, but I was also thinking about something else. Um, Tesla running their own cars, it got me worried that they were just going to take the whole robotaxi business for themselves and not allow Tesla owners to run their own cars. Because, like, that's a lot of gravy right there, right?
Yes, it's true.
You don't want to give that up. Um, but uh, 100,000 Model Ys would essentially cost Tesla $3 billion. So they may need some other cash flow, but if they're efficient, they can get efficient pretty quickly. Um, you're paying back that Model Y cost in 4 months.
Right.
That's 4 months
Yes, I know.
right there. So it's fully paying back for the Model Y. Um, so maybe Tesla can do their own fleet, but let's look at the customer cars.
Yep.
So the customer cars, it's at $2 per mile. And Tesla, you know, they with these they don't have to worry about how many are dead miles.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and what Tesla's going to do is they're going to collect 30% um, fee for the platform, so
Sure.
platform fee,
Mm-hmm.
and Tesla's going to pay the insurance.
Right.
So let's look at that piece for a second. But they don't have to clean it. They don't have to charge the cars. The other thing they get around, or the other problem they get around is charging. So like, maybe they could charge 1,000 cars in Austin and handle that. Maybe they can go from 20 to 1,000 and charge them at different times during the day at Giga Texas. But they're going to need to expand their charging somewhere. Um, it, so like there's an infrastructure problem. So, what you want to like grow in Austin and others is you want people charging at home. So you're going to bring in customer cars. So Tesla gets 60 cents per mile, and they're paying the insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll be paying insurance on all the miles.
Yep.
So I think this could be up to 20 cents per
Wow.
build mile.
Wow.
Um, but it would be 13 cents per
Mm-hmm.
or
Revenue mile? No, per total miles.
yeah, this per total mile. Because they'll pay the insurance while the vehicle is going to the customer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the only little rub. But still, you got 40 cents per mile, and the cars are billing. Oh, okay. They're billing 200 miles per day. It's $80 a day. Let's do that one.
Hmm.
So I think that'll come to like 29 grand per year.
Hmm.
Or no. Um, I'm doing it wrong. No, I might be doing it right. So 80 per day times 365. Yeah, it's 29. I used to be a stock options market maker, and I
Yeah.
had to I had to do multiplication in my head um all day. So $29,200 per year. And this is two Tesla in
Right.
profit per customer car.
Right.
So, let's say Tesla can't for whatever reason field a bunch of their own cars.
Hmm.
We'll just be silly and there's a million of these.
Right.
So that's still 29 billion in profit.
Right.
And you're just getting started.
Exactly.
You're
Exactly.
not lowering the price to a buck 50 a mile. Um, let's see here. Here we go. And we're gonna leave. Brad's iPad's gonna get out of the way.
There you go.
There we go.
Well,
Back.
you handled the tech pretty well. All right. So then if you
So I'm excited about RoboTaxi. There's a lot of gravy in there. Tesla makes a lot more money than Uber would
yeah.
for a similar number of vehicles. They're able to undercut Uber and be much more profitable than Uber. Um, and in those per mile costs, we're including charging.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're including occasional cleaning. We're being conservative.
Hmm.
And this would be a price that would be lower than Uber and Lyft today. And you also have the potential with taking the drivers out where you're not paying the drivers to wait. You could potentially lower wait times throughout the markets that you serve.
100%. 100%.
Uh,
You should be able to. Yeah.
yeah, and I had another realization. So this probably obvious, but Austin is a college town.
It's true.
They have the big University of Texas there in Austin. So whenever you have a college town, you have a lot of students who are choosing not to have a vehicle
Mhm.
in the area. So you have that big population there. You have all the workers at Giga Texas. So there's over 22,000 of those. It's a great place for them to start. Also, like I mentioned last week, you have all these tech companies that move from California to Austin. So you have all these tech workers that are early adopters, and they're going to try that out. And then you have the various festivals that happen. So South by Southwest being a big one that happens in the Austin area.
Yeah, I think I've tried to, as a marketer, I've tried to imagine, what's going to happen as they go city to city. And
Mhm.
just the fact that they have in the United States over 2 million owned vehicles in the United States.
Right.
So if I leave California, if I leave, if I'm going to Austin, but if I'm not going to Austin, I'm going to Dallas, I'm going to wherever I'm going. If I have a choice between Uber and Tesla, I'm going to take it because I'm a Tesla person. Or
Right.
maybe I don't own a Tesla vehicle, but my dad does, or my sister does, or somebody else. And so I'm kind of in the gang, or maybe I'm just an enthusiast. I just like what Elon's doing, or maybe I'm a stockholder, even though I don't own the stock, I don't own a car,
Mhm.
I'm a stockholder. So there's all kinds of
Yeah.
built-in.
And Dallas is very affluent. So
It's,
Dallas, Fort Worth, you have Arlington there,
yeah,
the whole Dallas Cowboy Stadium. There's a lot of wealth there, and I'm guessing there's a lot of Tesla owners in the Dallas area.
four of the uh, top 13 population cities in the country are now in Texas, and
Mhm.
of the top 13 are in California, and one of the top 13 is in Arizona. So if you just
Mm,
get Arizona, Texas, and California, you've got half of the number one population cities in the country, and you got
mm,
a few other pretty close. So
yeah.
you could probably add another five out of the next 15 or something like that. So yeah, so it seems like, and of course California by far the total number of Tesla owners.
Yes.
It's not even close to other states.
Mm.
Uh,
It's almost like 50% of the
Something like
Tesla
that.
ownership in the
Yes,
US.
yes,
For a very long time,
yes,
it was like around 50%
yes.
California.
So if you just get those three states, and apparently based on some of the uh, 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 the way things look as they might develop, it could easily be those three states would be the first three, and you can grab off a huge percentage of the business. I think in those three states, I have literal, literally no worries that if these cars work, all the
Hmm.
others work, they're going to take
Yeah.
massive share. I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And what you need for Tesla owners to run their cars in the network is you need trips to work, so
yeah,
pick up drop off that needs to work well. It needs to work as far as what it does between trips, and the car needs to return to the Tesla owner at their desired state of charge.
yes,
So you need those four things to be working well, and I think Tesla will get those working. Maybe they start off small with Tesla owners, but I think they could quickly scale. And te Texas is a great state because their energy market is very liberal.
right.
Um, so you can almost, build up your own solar and throw up a bunch of mega packs and Tesla chargers and have at them.
Yeah, no, that actually has been one of the things I've been talking about in terms of the advantage is the infrastructure that exists. It's not only the infrastructure of the charging facilities that are already there, but when you have a charging facility, you also have a parking space. So these are places where they
Yeah.
can park when they're not in use, as well as be charged, as well as be cleaned. All those could happen in those existing lots. You might have to put an employee there, and I don't think that would be a bad thing. You might have to put one employee in every single, that'd be three employees actually, or four, I guess, for four shifts. So you'd have to hire four employees to work in any location where you want the cars to be, have somebody come over and charge them. But that
Hmm.
employee could be helping Tesla customers, could potentially be handing out brochures. There's a million other things they could be doing while they were there on the lot. Um,
And you could even have the Tesla employees charge the Tesla owner cars.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they don't just have to, they don't necessarily they're not just limited to their own.
yes,
They'd be motivated to plug in a Tesla owner car
exactly.
if it's running on the network.
So then the other thing is that they've got all the service stations already. So service locations. So when
Hmm.
it's time to service the vehicle, it needs tires, it needs a repair, it needs something's gone wrong. The service locations are already in place. None of the other guys have that. So
Right.
all of that is ready, and you can give high priority to the Tesla vehicles to get them back on the road quickly when one of them comes in for service, as opposed to Uber, Lyft, or Waymo. When they go in for service, they're not going to have any way that I know of to encourage the Firestone location
Yeah.
fix their car faster than the other customers that are already in the lot at the time.
Well,
So
they probably have to go to a special place and they don't have scale with that.
exactly right. All right. So my last thing on my list today, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna put you on the spot on this one. Maybe you have no clue,
Okay.
but I know we've talked about it before. What is going on with the bonds, and how do we solve it?
Bonds.
Treasury bonds. They're at 3.44 or something. 3.44. I don't know, something like
You
that.
mean 4.44?
4.44. How are we going to get the bond? Why are the bonds staying so high? In yield rather. Why is the yield staying up there? We've got the inflation down. Uh, uh,
People are talking up the economy like we're not going to have a recession. So
yeah,
if there's no recession, then then why would rates necessarily come down? We did have a great PPI number that was very strongly in a negative. I
Yes.
think that one could be more volatile in general than the CPI.
Yeah,
So
but
I wouldn't trust that like suddenly the CPI drops into a big negative print.
the CPI was a great print also on Tuesday.
Yeah, it was lower than expectations by 0.1%.
And if you start looking at the underlying pieces of CPI, PPI, and PCE, you start looking at the individual parts, it's like you can't, there's nothing, no evidence of some piece that's going to break out and cause,
Mm,
problems downstream. So I'm having
yeah.
a hard
So
time.
yeah, demand for money. So if you think about
Yep.
demand for money, do I want to loan my money to the US government or do I want to keep it and have it in stocks right now? And yeah, I would be tempted to have it in stocks right now. Um, yeah, there's people that want to have it in Tesla or whatever. Um, I think now's I think there's going to be some volatility, but generally speaking, I want to be invested for the long haul. So like, why would I want to be in 10-year treasury? Do you have money in 10-year treasuries,
I
Randy?
have never bought a bond in my entire, well, I'm sorry, that's not quite true. I think when I was in grade school, because this was a very, very long time ago, we brought our dimes and we put our dimes into these little folders. And eventually, I think you had X amount of dimes, and then you could buy some kind of a bond. But
Mhm.
it's been a very, very long time ago, so I don't remember the details. It had to, I think they were war bonds of some kind. So maybe you
Well,
did $10 to get a $10 bond that would mature in 20 years for $100 or
mm.
something. I don't know. But
I
yeah,
did the Series double E bonds in
did
the
you?
80s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So you know a little bit about the bond market.
just a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is the one that's driving me nuts. If the bonds would come down, it's off to the races. I don't see anything getting in the way of the golden age if we could get the bonds down into the threes.
Yeah, well, if the golden age is this exciting thing, then why do you want your money in bonds? So I think maybe that's why the rate is high in bonds.
Okay, so people are saying
And
I'm
if other countries are buying planes of the US or investing in the US, like they can't have their money in bonds, they need cash to buy the equipment to invest in the US. So it might be just a higher than normal demand for money.
there you go. There you go. Could be. You could be 100% right. I've been reading every article I can find on it and trying to figure out, not to the extent that it's going to matter to me very much, but I do like to be complete in,
Mm.
in
I'd say what's ironic is right now, well, we don't know how the deficit's going to turn out,
right.
but it seems like things are going well from a spending deficit standpoint. We don't know like what's going to happen with what Congress decides or if they do rescission or whatever, but like they had some kind of surplus or what was it?
Well, you always have a surplus in April, but the
Uh-huh.
surplus was 28% higher than last year.
Okay.
And that was partially because of just regular income tax money coming in because of pretty good economy, but it was partially because of money coming in from tariffs, which was the highest amount of money coming in from tariffs since who knows
Mm,
when, maybe ever. Like double it was, double the same time last year,
mm.
16 billion versus 8 billion, something like that. And then also less government expenditures compared to what would have been otherwise. So all of that added up to this big surplus.
I think for maybe for rates to come down, we would have to see like spending actually be cut.
Mhm.
Um, that could contribute to it. I'd say what's ironic about all this is it seems like we're on a better path fiscally with the country, and that would mean your rate should come down, like your ability to pay on your debt. As it increases, your interest rate should come down.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I keep, of course, I've said this several times, but I'll get your opinion on it. I do think that Trump will start to bully that one down too. Bully pulpit. If I want to be nice, I'll say he'll use the bully pulpit to get the
Mhm.
bond rates down, or to get people to start buying bonds. Maybe he'll use patriotism as a way, or put more pressure on Powell than he's already putting on Powell, which is a lot.
Mhm.
And of course, Bessent can have some impact. He's already
Yeah,
started.
Treasury could buy bonds.
They can buy bonds. They've already started buying some bonds, and they've stopped selling them. So there's a little quantitative easing already taking place. He could do more of that. He can also he could put pressure on Powell at their Wednesday morning breakfast.
Mhm.
So I think Trump is gonna. I think when he gets back from the Middle East, that's going to be his next thing, because he's talked about it. It's bugging the heck out of him. It's like the kind of maybe the last piece in the financial pie that he needs to solve.
Okay.
Okay, all right, okay.
So I heard a little rumor.
What was that?
Well, China isn't sending their rare earths.
To the U.S.
Right. So like they have this, cooling off. They, got rid of the whole escalation,
Right, right, right.
retaliatory tariffs, but China isn't suddenly sending rare earths now.
I see.
So allegedly there's some OEM suppliers that are not getting the supply that they need. This apparently doesn't affect Tesla,
Right.
but it may affect some other automakers.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Because I
Little rumor I
a
heard.
little rumor. I'll follow up on that rumor. Thank you very much for that. No, that's something I'm paying a little attention to. It turns out that rare earths are a really good thing, and they really make things run better and faster and
Mhm.
with more efficiency. But that same motor can be made without them.
Yeah.
And it'll just be a little less efficient, a little less good. And so the rare earth thing, one article I read by a very, very acknowledged, knowledgeable person on it said, "Yeah, it's not the big deal that everybody's making it to be if we don't get rare earths for a minute."
And I wanted to share some other good news.
Go ahead, do it. Absolutely.
So Farzad and Hans from
Yeah,
Farzad's channel,
yeah.
they had um a podcast with the number three um Neuralink patient
Oh,
from Neuralink.
yeah.
And what's fun about this, and I'll mute this, is during the whole interview you can see the share um that from the screen that Brad Smith has of how he can contribute uh, to the interview to the podcast. So you get to see how it works
Ah,
and the different software he has. So I haven't fully watched this yet, but this is something I'm definitely going to set aside the time over the next day or two to watch that, see how that works.
we are definitely living in interesting times. There is no
Yeah.
doubt about that. All right, Bradford, as usual, we were not going to do the numbers while I'm in Hawaii because it's so late in the day that I've already done the numbers earlier this morning, because my morning show, for those of you who've been missing seeing me at the crack of dawn, well, the crack of dawn in Hawaii is 3 hours later. So my show has been coming out sometimes around noon, well, 3 o'clock Eastern.
Hmm.
So that's, by that time, we already pretty much know what the numbers are. So I am passing on the numbers. And so that's all we got for today. Then, unless you have a word of wisdom to share with us.
I'm just liking seeing the Randy Kirk sim to real show. I'm excited. Let's once you get back from Hawaii, let's boost the compute to a
That's right.
terawatt
That's,
scale.
that's right.
Let's
At,
go.
at a bare minimum. Okay. So having said that, you should definitely watch Brian Wong. Will probably be Friday night. He and I put together a show a little while ago, which will take what we just talked about in terms of the terawatt, the effort to get to a terawatt. And of course, Brian does his thing. and he talks about the ways to get there, the energies,
Mhm.
potential ways, the chip, what's needed to get there in chips.
Mhm.
And of course, he has a solution which he thinks is the best way to go to get that done the fastest. And then I clap back and I have my own solution. And he thought my solution wasn't half bad. So, I'm learning from Brian all the time. He's teaching me this stuff. And now I'm trying to outdo the teacher. So if you want to see, if you want to see Randy coming up with a solution to the advancing to the terawatt level, that will be probably Friday night at 7:45 California time.
Now, I don't know if you propose this, but I have an idea
Okay.
for how to make it faster.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Have governments compete for the contract.
Have governments compete for the contracts.
Yeah, it would be transformational. Like if it's all going to be in one spot,
Right. Right.
you're going to have all this
Yeah.
compute in one
Yeah.
spot.
Yeah.
You need all this energy, and it would be transformational for any government or any area.
Gets it.
So
Yeah.
like Saudi Arabia would compete for it. China might have it in the Gobi Desert. Sahara, the Sahara Desert, you could put a bunch of solar and
That's right. That's right.
maybe cool the computers in the Mediterranean. I don't know, but
No, that wasn't on our list. We should add it to that's good. I like it.
have the governments compete to make it the juiciest for Elon Musk to try and do it there.
Maybe Mexico. Mexico would have a lot to gain. They could become
Mhm.
a power by having that in Mexico. Yeah.
Or Arizona would work too.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, good news. I like
Let's
it.
go.
Glad we went
I
there.
want to see what you all come up with.
All right. Well, you have to watch it. All right,
All
Brian.
right.
Thank you, Bradford, as always, and to all of you out there. It's been great talking to you.